loves, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Joy, and we have a ton to go over because I know you saw the title of today's video. We have some words from Thomas Matthew Crooks that also is starting to prove one of my theories I've been saying if you've been following me. I've had a theory about what his motive is that I've been talking about, and it looks like I could be right. We have not only what he said, but we also have some interesting stuff about his search history that is just coming through as to what's actually happening with him. And guys, if you like content like this, make sure and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also guys, sound off in the comments as I go along. Tell me what you think. What do you see? Are there things you think that I'm missing? And like the video. All these things just help my channel and I greatly appreciate it. So let's go ahead and let's dive in. This is from the New York Post. Failed assassin Thomas Matthew Crooks researched Trump and Biden and even a UK royal before shooting. The last one just came out, and this one's important we're going to talk about. And it says, would-be assassin Thomas Matthews Crooks had researched former President Donald Trump's movements before he shot him while also looking up President Biden. And even a member of the British royal family, FBI investigators said. Investigators detailed Crooks' search history to lawmakers on Wednesday, sharing how the 20-year-old searched for the dates of Trump's appearances and the Democratic National Convention, and also looked up info to help his own major depressive disorder. People on the call told the New York Times. There's so much to go over here. The gunman also had images of Trump and Biden saved to his cell phone, law enforcement sources previously told the Post. It says, Crooks' search history revealed a broad interest in high-profile people and celebrities, regardless of their political affiliation, FBI officials said, further hindering their hunt for a motive. As well as researching Trump and Biden, Crooks also searched for FBI Director Christopher Wray, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and a member of the British royal family, the Times reported, without specifying which royal it is. The gunman may have also been struggling with his mental health, the officials added, highlighting a search he made on one of the two cell phones for major depressive disorder, according to the report. Crooks, who was shot dead seconds after firing on the former president, also wrote a chilling online message that alluded to sinister plans in the Butler, PA rally over this weekend. So, okay, and then it says, investigators are scouring through the shooter's cell phone and computer in search of answers for the assassination attempts, but have not yet identified a motive. Nothing in their investigation so far has indicated that Crooks, who was a registered Republican, had strong partisan political views in either direction, officials told lawmakers. Officials have also not found any evidence of co-conspirators or connections to foreign actors, according to the report. Details of Crooks' search history were released as news broke that 20 minutes passed between the time that Secret Service snipers first spotted Crooks perched on a roof with a rifle at the time he began firing at the former president. The gunfire grazed Trump's ear, ending, as we know, Corey's life, who had the two girls. So that's the first thing. There's already so much to go over there, but now, guys, I want to show you. And guys, this is what he says from CNN.com. It says, would-be assassin posted on gaming site that July 13th will be my premiere. Watch as it unfolds. It says, Thomas Matthews Crooks. I keep saying Matthews. Sorry, it's annoying me too if you're hearing it. Thomas Matthew Crooks, the shooter in the failed assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump, wrote on the popular gaming platform Steam that July 13th will be my premiere. Watch it as it unfolds, a source familiar with the matter told CNN. The source did not elaborate on timing or whether there were other posts. Investigators have been trying to learn about what Crooks was doing in the days and hours leading up to the attempt of the assassination of the former president. Crooks visited the Trump rally location twice. His cell phone contained images of both Trump and President Joe Biden, and the would-be assassin's search history included dates of the Democratic National Convention, as well as future Trump events. 3 U.S. officials told CNN. But investigators combing through Crooks' physical and digital trail still lacks the key details that would explain why the 20-year-old climbed on the roof in Butler, Pennsylvania with an air-style weapon, a motive. Crooks also conducted searches online about major depressive disorder, administrative officials told Congress during their briefing Wednesday. So, okay, guys, what does all this mean? Because there's, like I said, there's a lot to unpack. So first, and I want to make sure you didn't miss any details. So they've been trying to figure out a motive, as we know, as to like what's happened and why did he do this? And the problem is they're looking in the wrong place. And this is what I've been saying for a while. Now, to give you the details so you don't miss them, one of the reasons they've missed this and this info is just coming out is they found he had 2 cell phones. He had one on him and one at his home. And the one at his home is where they're finding more information and more searches being done. So the first thing is, we know somebody like this is not firing on all cylinders, right? So when it comes to his mental health, he clearly knew there was something going on with him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be Googling and looking stuff up. To do what he did, I'm assuming there's an empathy chip lacking. I'm going to tell you what my assumptions are. And this is not an attack. This is not a negativity to everybody, so please don't take it that way. But here's my assumptions on him. I think he probably had mental health issues, some type of depression. I think probably from being bullied and the way that he was treated, he probably has some behavioral disorders. So we're talking, there's narcissism, there's sociopathy. And remember, guys, with narcissism is a tricky one, because narcissists, even though it comes across as though I am the king of the world and I am amazing and everybody needs to honor and bow down and fall at my feet, it comes from a deep-seated place of extreme insecurity and most of the time trauma. It's basically a trauma response. By the way, that's not me in any way like advocating for it or saying it's okay. I'm just kind of explaining. I also think we probably have somebody who's somewhat spectral, somewhat on the spectrum. I don't know that for sure. And by the way, in saying that, I have several friends who are on the spectrum. People on the spectrum don't act like this. So I'm not blaming, just like him having major depressive disorder, possibly. I have a friend who has that. She doesn't act this way. So it doesn't matter what you have, you still have to take accountability and responsibility. But I think he probably ended up having some mental health issues. If he was bullied as bad as people had said, these things probably progressed over time. And what can happen is you can become very numb. You lack empathy. And then you can do stuff like this, because even if you lack empathy and the world is numb, you want feeling. You want love and acceptance somehow, but you get to the point where it's basically you lack energy. We are all connected. We all want connection in our life and love. And what is that? It's energy exchange. But sometimes you get to a point where you're so desperate, you will take any energy, including negative energy, and you will do all these mental gymnastics as to why not only should you, but this could be a good thing. In his mind, he probably looks at himself as somewhat of a hero. So I wanted to go over that part, and that at least it looks like there was probably some mental health issues. And on top of that, he had awareness of that, which brings into question his parents. Both parents, I believe, are mental health counselors. I'm not sure if it's psychologists. I think psychologist is the one, or psychiatry is the one you can prescribe medicine. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they both are mental health counselors to some degree. How is this not seen? And here's the other thing. Maybe they did know, in the sense of maybe they knew what his mental health was, and maybe not to the extent. So I would say this. If he is aware of what's going on with him, his parents probably have some awareness of some mental health stuff. But you would be surprised what people can hide from you. But at the same time, it's like, wouldn't they be trained to see that? But then they called the cops on him a few hours before he actually did the pew-pewing, saying he was missing, but hadn't been missing that long. He'd been just missing a couple hours that day, I believe. So I wonder if they found that information before, or if they just had a bad hunch because they knew how he was. And by the way, I don't know. I'm hypothesizing here, but then it says of his search history. Let's talk about his search history. And this is where it's going to start to come into some of my theories. He had not just Trump on his phone, but Biden and a royal from the UK, also some other high-level officials. I think they can't find a motive because everybody is obsessed with politics. They're looking in the wrong place. They think because it's Trump, the motive has to be political. I also think we are in an election year. The election is coming up. And as a result of all that, everything is so heightened. Everybody's looking at things more and more from politics because that's where the energy is, and that's where the bigger and bigger divides are. So I think people almost, and I'm not saying you guys, I mean like in general sense, right? You guys who watch me, we're smart, and you guys like me because I like to look at everything and go into as many details as possible. And I got that weird intuition. I tend to be right on stuff, and I think I'm calling this right. And that we're all looking for the political motive, and I don't think you're going to find it because I don't think it's there. I'm not saying he doesn't have political ideas or he might not lean one way. I think this was motivated by attention, which is why he looked at both candidates. I think he found the opportunity with Trump because Trump is closer. Well, think about it. A UK royal, unless it was like, Harry and what's her name? I was going to say Monica. Miranda? What is her name? Markle. Meghan Markle. Sorry. It's early for me. So unless it was them, who I think live in the U.S. I know they were in Canada, but I don't know much about them. They lived in the U.S., or they do live in the U.S. They are not near where he was. He was in Pennsylvania. And I don't know that old Joe was going out to Pennsylvania anytime soon. So I think this was more about sending a message. And here's the other thing you have to think about. If you were going to go after somebody for attention, Trump would be the best one. Trump is the most divisive and gets the most attention. Remember, somebody like this in this position, they want energy. Where are you going to get the most energy? If you take out Biden, I would be sad. It would be sad. And I'm not saying I advocate for that at all. I'm just explaining the psychology of what I think is happening. However, he is older. People have already questioned how long he's going to be around, and they're already trying to get rid of him politically on all sides, except the Republicans want him in because he's hilarious and Donald Trump would absolutely win with him. So it's getting really interesting because if he went after Biden, I don't think he would get as much attention. And yeah, it would create sadness on the left. But here's the thing, guys. The right really loves Trump. The left doesn't really love Biden. What do I mean by that? We know Biden was elected in spite of Trump. People elected Biden simply so Trump would not be elected. But there isn't a big loyalty for him. There isn't a big following. It would not make the same impact. People are very invested, even emotionally, when it comes to Donald Trump for so many different reasons. I think that gave him more attention that he's been seeking. So I think we're looking at the motive. And I think the more time goes on, the more we're going to see it. And let's look, what exactly did he say? I want to read the quote again. Would-be assassin posted on gaming site on Steam that July 13th will be my premiere, watches and unfolds. It's his show. On that, he didn't say, I'm taking down the world's worst evil. Because here's the thing I've heard people say, and I'm not agreeing with this. Understand, I'm giving the information. People have said in regards to trying to end Trump, they've said, think about it this way. Would you go back in time and end Hitler? Would you end baby Hitler? It's been that type of argument. We're not hearing any of that. We're hearing, this is my show. This is me. So July 13th will be my premiere date. We don't yet hear anything about any cause, anything around it. It's my premiere, my show. This is my thing, me. I think this is a me thing for him. And I think he was able to do it because he has the mental health issues where he lacks empathy. And this is why it's really important, guys, that we really try not to bully each other and stuff in school. And that's the hard thing, though, because bullying, it all comes from tribalism. When you break it down exactly what's happening, it's with human beings, like even racism. And racism is awful, and there are things we need to work on in this country. But at the end of the day, it ends up, because there are a lot of places, even like different Caucasian groups that will enslave other Caucasian groups. Not okay with that either. It's not what I'm saying, though, is when you boil a lot of this stuff down, a lot of it comes to tribalism. When somebody is very different and they go against the tribe or they look different than the tribe can turn on them. This is just psychology and physiology of how human beings and other animals act and interact. And in that, they can incur a lot of abuse. And if you don't get the help you need for that, or you don't get out of that environment, you are going to have different coping mechanisms. And a lot of those coping mechanisms come in the form of behavioral disorders, mental health disorders. It makes me sad because he at least had enough awareness of his mental health that he knew he probably needed some help. But instead of reaching out further to get help, he decided to do this. And here's another thing. I think we're looking at another incel situation. I think we're looking at a situation where the economy is crap, that he can't make the money he wants, can't get out, can't live on his own, girls aren't attracted to him, has probably never actually tried to build himself up physically or in any way to be attractive to a girl, and doesn't believe he has that power, is really too lazy to act upon it. And the laziness a lot of times just comes from the disempowerment in yourself, and this is a way to empower one's self. And this is where I talk a lot about we have to empower ourselves, guys. This is what I talk about in this channel. We have to empower ourselves with whatever you want to call it, God, spirit, source, the universe, whatever the highest vibration of positive love and light that you can tap into to the best of your ability. We have to have faith. I think he also just looked around, and here's another thing. This can happen to really smart people. Some of the most tragic stories I've seen in my life are a lot of people that I went to school with. They were especially the men, they were the smart kids. And they still are. They were smart, and basically they could sleep through. You ever know those people, like I have a partner like this, he could sleep through his classes and make like A pluses. I was one of those, I had to work real hard for my B average, right? I think one time, there was one semester or quarter, I got A average and I was shocked, and I was like in 6th grade. But I always had to work really hard. But for those that are really, really smart, where school isn't really a challenge, what happens is they are fed this narrative. I slowly think it's changing, even though I do think teachers and parents still push it on you, and more so teachers, because this is what they're taught to do. It was really bad when I was growing up. What happens is they basically scream, if you want a good life, you have to be smart, and you have to do your homework. You have to do everything the school tells you to do. And you think, okay, so one of these smart people, they're not really challenged that much. You sleep through your classes. As long as I turn the homework, do the tests, I get A's, I'll go to college, and then I'm going to come out with a 6-figure job, and I'm going to do well, and then I'm going to be smart, and people will be attracted to me being smart. I'll get the women. That's not how it works. And it's sad because these people are sold a lie. So these very intelligent men very quickly figure out, once they get to college in the real world, women still don't like me. Things aren't working the way I wanted. And then they go, okay, once they get out of college, they can't find a job. Wait a minute. I got the degree. I'm really smart. I have all these accolades and awards for being really, really smart, and I can't get a job. Women don't want to date me. I'm making $10 an hour. I'm in debt. I can't leave my parents' house, and this is what it is, and this is the economy, and it all comes from a sense of disempowerment. What they don't understand is, okay, you're correct in all of that right now, but you could change it. How do we form your resume to be a great-looking resume to get you attention? How do we get more, basically, how do we build you up? Go to the gym. And it's not about become a big, bulky guy and attract women, although that can happen. I'm not one of those people. But, but it's more about working on your physical health and getting yourself in the best possible physical shape that you can is going to attract a mate. It's the same thing for women. That's why when women go through breakups, they say, oh, she had a glow up. She put herself in a position where she focused on her health, physical, mental, emotional, otherwise, goes to the gym, and you start becoming somebody who looks physically viable to have children with, and men are attracted to you. It's all like just basic physiology and psychology. So I think he just went through this situation where he was a smart guy. The problem is, being the smart guy is not going to get you where you need to be. You have to get out there and make it happen. In fact, my partner and I were talking about this. My partner is the smart guy, got a full ride to college. He's a biologist, a scientist, was in med school, but decided not to do that, became a scientist, and now is a software developer. He's incredibly smart. But he even went through that process of realizing when he became and I don't want to tell his story too much, it's his story, but when he was going to be a doctor and then went into biology, got his degree, got out, he was like, I'm not making the money I want. This is not the life I want. And it took him a little bit, but he empowered himself to go back to school and create the life he wanted. A lot of people, they don't have that skill. We don't teach that skill, that industriousness. That's a skill that I've had to have because I've never been the smart one. So I have to work like HELL and figure it out and dominate. That's what I always try to do. But for people who don't understand how can this happen, this is how this happens, guys. It comes from a place of feeling so sad and vulnerable and disempowered, and we talk a lot about this on this channel, not having faith. I don't mean in any religious context. You can use it in a religious context, but faith Faith is the tool in your mind and your heart to create the world around you that you want, and hopefully do it with whatever you want to call God, the universe. They don't have any spiritual tools to be able to say, I see a vision and I'm going to create it in the real world. And that can be as simple as I want to go to the gym and lose 5 pounds. It doesn't have to be some massive big thing, but they don't have that. They don't know how to get that. Those aren't necessary. Those aren't skills we teach, and they're not ready available. And you got to understand something else, because you think, well, it comes from laziness. Here's what you got to understand. It also comes from anger. And where does the laziness comes from? The laziness comes from that for people like this when they're in the school system. And it sounds like he was in public school system. We saw that video of him graduating. They aren't challenged. They don't have to work hard. They coast. They don't know how to work hard. They know how to do the bare minimum, and they still get really good grades. Or some of those really smart people even wouldn't do that well. They just knew they were really smart and they were gonna have, and it's like they have this thing, and even society says, if you're real smart and you just do the work in school, we're gonna hand you everything. And it doesn't happen, and anger and resentment builds, and you go through this, the world is BS thing. Now, a lot of us end up at some points going through the world as BS. A lot of us, it happens at puberty. For me, I was 12, 13 years old, and I'm like, everything's a lie. Some people, it takes time. Some people, it takes until they get out of school, get into college. For some people, it takes for them to get their first family. Or once their first family unit breaks apart, and then they see it. Or if it doesn't hit you then, for many people, it becomes a midlife crisis. And a midlife crisis, in my opinion, is a physiological and spiritual push inside yourself of taking stock of all the things I haven't done, all the things I have done. What do I still want to do while I'm at what we feel is a halfway point? Let's get it in gear. Not everybody takes that energy and does something with it, though. Some people go get destructive, right? It just, some people go leave their families and go get a young wife and make a new one. Like, people do all kinds of things with that energy. But there's going to be a lot of, how could this happen? And they do this all the time. How could this happen? How could this be? How could somebody do this? Blah, blah. They always go into this, and there's all these questions, and I'm telling you, I'm giving you what I think are some pretty decent answers as to how it happens. And guys, I understand separation of church and state, and I agree with it, because growing up, I was a weird little new age kid in a very Christian conservative area where people made fun of me. I understand the reasons for it. I totally get it. But I do think, even if we can't put spirituality into school, because that becomes a very slippery slope, right? We need to at least have self-empowerment. Why don't we have classes on how to deal with your emotions, how to be able to start to figure out if you or the people around you have, emotional issues, how to empower yourself, how to go out in society and actually do things. Classes like how to make a resume. We don't have any of that because our school systems are setting up our kids to fail. They were set up as class systems. And it was the blue collar workers, which back in the day, like when I was growing up, oh, you'll never make money, and those aren't good jobs, and those aren't prestigious. And then the others that do well, they were pushing you into the corporate arena and environment to enslave you. That's really what it was a class system. The others fell in between, farmers, which really is blue collar, junkies, but it did create this class system. And if we really want change, guys, a couple things have to happen. We have to radically shift how we see mental health. Another one is, I wonder if he was medicated. I am not here to tell you what to do with your health, but I will tell you a lot of those mental health medications have long-lasting effects on your brain. It can alter the chemicals and not necessarily fix things. Many mental health issues come from health issues. Your gut being messed up can cause mental health issues. And guys, also, I know trauma can cause, there are so many things, and mental health is such a big thing, but there's so many things that encompass it, but we don't understand it. We need to understand all sides. You want to help fix somebody's mental health. One thing to help is to get them in a physically good place, but we don't do that. Nobody in our society, we don't talk about, like when somebody's going back to the gym, we want to lose weight. We don't ever go, okay, let's talk about your gut health. That's a new science emerging, which is sad. And again, I'm not saying that would take away everybody's problems, but if you have some major mental health issues, that can definitely help get your chemicals flowing in the right place to at least get your mind in a better place to deal with it. But yes, a lot of mental health issues come from really negative, nasty thought patterns. And if you really boil down a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them come from a lack of faith, a lack of connection, a lack of spirituality, and a lack of faith, meaning a disempowerment of how can I change and create my world, and you start to spiral. Now, everybody's different. There are some people who need certain things and certain medications. I get it. But guys, let me tell you a story. When I was younger, I had extreme asthma and allergies, dangerously. And I was put on, what was it called? Claritin and Zyrtec. I can't remember which medicine it was. I'll have to look it up. But there was a medication. I think it's either no longer in the market or they have real extreme warnings with it. And it was supposed to be, Zyrtec is, that's the allergy thing. Claritin is allergy. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look it up. But it was a medicine that was hailed as like the miracle drug for people with asthma and allergies. It did help, but it also caused mental health issues back. I'd never experienced depression that bad to this day in my life, and it was medically induced. I got to a point, I lost who I was as a person. I did not know how to have a personality. How do you actually talk to people? I'm a talker, guys. That's all I am. Now, there were other things that went on at that time, but there was a constant blanket of darkness and something saying you need to end it for about 2 years. After 2 years, I ended up getting really into health and fitness, and I just decided I no longer want this medication, just intuitively. And it lifted. It lifted. And I really got into health and wellness and started to do a lot of fasting. It turned into EDs, as a lot of young people my age did. But I had extreme for like 2 years. And I asked for help in my family. I was told no. I don't know where this stopped. My camera blanked out. So I'll go ahead and say, I did want to say this about JD Vance. JD Vance has come out recently. That's the vice president. And they've asked about, if somebody, especially like a teenage girl, was R-worded, or it was incest, should she be forced to carry to term? He said, we have to rephrase how we look at it. It shouldn't be, should she be forced to? It should be, do we give the baby the chance at life? And it scares me. Now, on the surface, it sounds lovely, doesn't it? On the surface, sounds great. We want to be pro-baby. And he's like, and then he said the statement of, even if it's inconvenient for society. It's not inconvenient for society. It's dangerous. So this is where I think it's interesting with the right. And this is why I call out both sides, guys. There are people in the middle like me. I don't subscribe to being Republican simply because of this. The Republicans love to scream about all the trafficking that goes on. They are right, and I'm right there with them. Part of that trafficking is CPS. Part of that is people have children they can't take care of. They get taken by the state and they get sold. It happens all the time. By the way, if you're a CPS worker, I'm not saying you. If you're watching, I'm sure I'm not talking about you, but if you are watching, you know there's some stuff that goes on behind the scenes, even if you don't see that directly. So if you want to end trafficking, we have to end bringing people in the world that we don't want to take care of. And here's the other thing, failure to thrive. If you have a baby and you don't take care of it, or even if you just take care of the basic needs, don't love it, don't do all that, they can literally pass or have severe issues physically, cognitively, psychologically from failure to thrive, giving it attention. Who is supposed to raise all of these children? On top of that, there is no concern for the mother. They don't understand that pregnancy is a medical condition for women, and in this country can give them lifelong lasting medical conditions. And they don't care. So you're totally okay with a woman becoming disabled where she can't take care of her child, which happens, and especially happens in this country. In this country, guys, the mortality rate of women giving birth is skyrocketed. It's disgusting. So you want to make sure that we bring all the children in the world, but you don't want anybody to have the health to take care of it because they don't want any programs for it to have people insured, although Obamacare doesn't help anyways, and it actually forces privatized insurance on people who can't afford it, and that insurance typically won't help them. It's a mess everywhere. But this is why I wanted to say we have to look at things differently. We cannot look at things from a politically motivated place all the time because most people are in the middle. It's just the loudest voices are going to be the most extreme on both sides. And I think us as the middle has to raise up, and we have to be able to talk about these things and see them in their entirety. And from there, we can make the best decisions. I want a world where women have such good health care and such good birth controls, they never have to make the decision that the Republicans don't want them to make. But to do that, we have to get Republicans in the mindset of we all have to give back to one another and help one another. And the Republicans, many of them, not all, are still brainwashed to believe that everything is about individual accountability. And there is individual accountability in everything, but there also is community. It's got to be a combination of both. It's like when it comes to the Nordic countries, what do? They do democratic socialism. They have socialist programs, but they have democracy. And you know what, guys? No matter what people tell you, we have socialism in this country. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. It's a mix of both. So I've ranted way too much, but I just want to go ahead and go over some of this because I saw this and I thought this is not only very interesting, there's going to be a lot of how did this happen? And I wanted to go into the details because on this channel, you're going to get the details. We're going to go into the heart of something and figure it out and then see how can we fix it. And remember, guys, no matter what happens on both sides of the spectrum, when the dark is going this crazy and freaking out this much and trying this hard to be awful, it means the light is winning. And good things are right around the corner. And don't you forget that, because people will always going to tell you otherwise. There is a push and a pull. There is a dynamic with the universe of the light and the dark. And this is just how it moves. And I'm just explaining how it moves because I've lived here for 40 years now and I've been watching it for a while. And I've also studied a lot of texts and things. These are the steps to create the world that we want. But it won't be over once Trump gets in office because the Republicans have their own side of bullcrap we have to deal with too. All right, guys, I just want to go ahead and get this out there. So thank you so much once again, as always, for watching and listening. I love you guys so much. And until the next video, giving you all hugs, kisses. Tell me what you think about all this. What do you think about what he said? I think we'll get some type of manifesto soon. Now, especially now that they found a second phone, it's going to get real interesting what comes out. Tell me your thoughts. If you like this content, make sure and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Like my video. Everything helps. Love to spread these messages. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. I asked 2 parental figures for help and said it's really bad. I don't want to be here because of it. One basically said we had a family member, some great aunt or something, who was in an asylum and who was crazy. I'm not raising a crazy person. Figure it out. Another one got mad at me for saying it and said, horse crap. I don't want to hear it. Deal with it. We don't do that in this family. Sadly, I found out, or I think it was a great-grandmother. The great-grandmother, yeah, she went back and forth into asylums because her husband was an abusive alcoholic. He was an abusive alcoholic. Funny enough, apparently she was incredibly obese, even though she tried to lose weight. And I was like, wow, I look at what I went through and it looks like those genes activated and what happened with me and my family. So I'm telling you guys all of this. I know this is a long video. It's a bit long-winded because I want to explain how this can happen. He might have been on medication that made it so that he couldn't see a way out. But sadly, it's also possible that medication is what kept him from things going worse. You know, you got to look at all sides of something. You have to look at all sides of something. And not everybody, and this is another thing that bothers me, not everybody is extreme right or extreme left. There's so many people like me where when I say we're in the middle, we take some from here and some from there and we see the sides of it and what we like and don't like. So for instance, the number one reason I won't be Republican is women's reproductive rights. In fact, and I wanted to talk about this, J.D. Vance, the vice president, has scared me. He has come out and said something that's scary. And basically he has said that he doesn't think that ending a pregnancy should happen in the form of a girl getting R-worded or incest. His response was, and basically it was, should we force somebody or a teenager to carry to term and deliver that child in that situation? He's like, we have to reframe it to, should we allow the child to live?